Beautiful and interesting session, masters, and a very happy Independence Day to all, as we are all celebrating this 75th year Independence Day. We all know the Yashodhara story till now, right? Just have a recap of these previous sessions. In the beginning, she was sufferer, she has accepted, right? And afterwards, she has embraced her responsibility. Then she started taking care of the younger one and the elder one and the family. Afterwards, started practicing austerity to stay connected with Buddha, Siddhartha, right? Then she was part of the community there, and she was there with other women in the circle, and she was listening to them. She was guiding them, right? And she was proud of her path. And later she hoped and she reassured her son that one day your father will be back, right? Afterwards, she heard the Buddha's awakening news. She feels very happy for him, right? And at the end of that entire lessons, now Yashodhara has become the healer and the counselor, along with her mother-in-law, Pajapati, right? This is how she has grown around her grief, right? This story we all know. Next, move on to the next story part. Here, one day, this Rahula is growing now, Yashodhara's son, right? So he was playing with his friends in that palace. She was observing him playing with his friends. He was playing in the sand with toys and other things there. She was just observing daily. She was observing his play there with other children. And what happened when she was listening to that play deeply? She was there with him. She was listening. The boy loved doing the playing with her, right? Earlier, she was out of that play, but now she's playing along with him, right? And what she does is, the interesting part is, in rainy season, monsoon season, how the seeds will start seedling, right? The same way here in her mind, she got new ideas. What she did, she slowly introduced certain characters into that play, right? She brought in the king, queen, monsters, dragons, eagles, gods, Vedas, everything. She's introduced everything here in this play, right? And even over and over, a missing father returning home, wearing simple clothing, looking for his son. She's preparing his mind, right? With the help of this game, right? Directly, she is not telling him anything, but slowly, that is a part of that play, right? Slowly, she is introducing her father. In the beginning, son would turn away in anger, and he used to say, "You are not my real father." He would cry, right? Then he would fight with his father, pushing that character, pushing him away and saying, "I hate you," because he has not seen his father so far, right? So slowly, she's introducing that character. Finally, what she did, this is very, very beautiful. She played the role of the father. Here, look at this. In this picture, she's Yashodhara here. And what she is telling, "I have come to be with you, to make amends and to bring you the treasure." she would say, and to bring you the gift of what I have learned. Now that you are ready, I am here. She is making the ground fertile, the mind fertile to receive his father. How beautifully she is doing that thing, right? And here, by doing this, she found a shared path, shared language between mother and a child. She could listen and be with his suffering, right? So now she has created the right dialogue for two of them together that she could use to prepare him for Siddhartha's return. When the child is actually suffering, mother is there along with him, right? So Yashodhara was sad, but also flushed with delight. She was sad that she had to do this for him, right? She has to introduce her his father like this way. But at the same time, she's feeling happy for her son, right? So this she does it very beautifully. And now, earlier, what she was doing, she was sitting along with other women in the circle externally, external world, right? We all know this. She had that circle of spiritual friends, right? Now, what she did, she got this another new idea from that play, what she was playing with her child. From that, she got this new idea. What she did is, she brought that relationship with Siddhartha inside herself. It became internal, right? The same way she has introduced that character here, inside, right? So here, that she tried to use the same circle practice internally, attuning to what was between them and to where he was with her, right? She was asking all these questions, trial and rehearsal. She's doing it here, visualization technique, what we call, right? So when she started this practice, she had this both dual emotions, grief, anger, frustration, all those things on the one side, right? And even sometimes she thought going to king's wish by agreeing to send off her son to become a warrior. Even she was thinking that also. Earlier she was resisting, but when she was visualizing, all these emotions were fluctuating, right? And finally, she had this, she tells, she had this great moment of forgiveness also, right? So here, what she did, she imagined Siddhartha sitting with her, visualizing everything, right? So daily she started practicing this. Her challenge was to see the truth of her relationship with him. What is he now for me? Right? And she's doing all these things because of her son. Right? She was worried about her son's future. Right? She wanted to help her son. Right? So that is why she was started practicing all these things. She brought him internally, Siddhartha. She was daily, that conversation was on between her and Siddhartha. Right? So what she says beautifully is, I realized that Siddhartha, like any of us, had no choice but to follow his own spiritual path. Look at her understanding. Wherever it might take him, to open to whatever might come. This is what I saw in being with him in my practice. Right? Like any of us had no choice. She understood that part. Right? But what she did here, and along with this, now she has started practicing this, right? Sorry. She has started practicing Now she felt released, free. She's no longer bound by blame. She doesn't have all those things now. She's calmer now. And she's no longer demonizing or not idolizing him. She's neutral towards him. Earlier, that anger, frustration, all those things were there. Now, she's neutral, right? So I found myself holding him, my first love, in loving kindness, right? She's expanding her consciousness here, knowledge, understanding. And she tells to her friends, she's narrating this story, right? To her friends there in that circle, right? She says this kind of practice is amazing. This is a kind of miracle, being with him in this way, right? Even what she does is she is practicing this son. She's visualizing this son encountering his father for the first time. She's practicing, she's rehearsing all these things. How beautiful this is, right? There, she's getting the strength, right, to meet him in reality, right? So even what she did, even hearing what I might say to my son, even she's practicing that also. Here is your father. Claim your inheritance, not from the king, not from the palace, but from your father. Look at this. Here, the inheritance means knowledge, wisdom, right? So she's practicing all these things in her visualization technique, right? So, but she's doing this, she's practicing this technique, but yet she could not come to peace. She's not satisfied with this practice also, right? Here, what she did was she internalizes the forgiveness. The path of resistance is vanished in this visualization technique, and she bridged the gap, right? And from his perspective, she saw the things. What he has done is right, right? To some extent, she is ready to agree with that, right? So she is coming from duality to oneness, right? But still, she's not satisfied with this, because she wanted to meet him personally. She wanted to witness all those things. She wanted to see with her eyes, her heart, right? Who Siddhartha had become now, and hear from him face to face, right? So that is why she's waiting for him, right there, right? Now she says that devotional practice of taking care of entire community, the whole family, right? That she called that as a devotional practice, right? So that practice was becoming a meditational practice for them. So this was she says, this was a deep relational practice, right? So here, what all they have achieved, what all they have gained here, when the women were sitting in that circle together, establishing way of sitting with, breathing with, listening and responding with, entering deeply into connection on a fundamental level, right? They found the new dimension of relationship, releasing ideas of separation and being embraced in the field of compassion, right? All these things they gained here in this circle of compassion, right? So here she says, here was the wisdom and insight and practice that arose along with path of right relation, right? So next, they became aware that every wise relationship creates a sangha and helps to turn love toward ourselves too. they discovered this. Every wise relationship, right? So in this era, we need this only. We have to become wise, right? So we have to have this wise relationship. That means love and care, caring circle, right? And next she continues. She's narrating this story. Even Gautami was there in that circle. Kisa Gautami, mustard seed Gautami, right? She says, what I learned is what you learned as well. She's telling this to Gautami here, right? When she went to in search of this mustard seeds from house to house, right? So there, through each particular connection, she went to each and every house there in that village, right? So by doing that, compassion arose in her, in Gautami, right? Compassion for each other. She got the importance of what is impermanence, right? Every house has seen the death, right? So she says, your compassion flowered forever. There also you're meeting people, right? The same thing, she's doing it here in the circle, Yashodhara, right? So she says beautifully, our path, our truths, our teachings and practices all grow through these particular connections to each other. We are also doing the same thing, right? And now I realize that it joins the Buddha's path, right? The noble truths and the eightfold teaching and practices. He is teaching there and she is practicing here, right? His is a more of a theoretical way and she is that her approach is practical, right? So then we all know this, that Buddha has taught us these four noble truths, right? Life is full of suffering. Suffering comes from desire, more wanting, right? Suffering stops when desire or wanting stops, right? In order to stop those desires or wants, we have to follow this eightfold path. What is that eightfold path? We all know this, right? Right understanding, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right meditation, right? So this suffering stops only when the desire stops, more desire, want, right? So we have to follow that. To stop that more desire or wanting, we have to follow this, all these eight beautiful paths, eightfold path he has given, right? So here he says very beautifully, he says the path right, he uses the word right everywhere, right understanding, right thought. What do you mean by right here? Doing anything with quality, right? Whatever you are doing, do it with quality, right? With 100% focus on that particular part only, right? So here, right effort, he has told, right effort, because it is very, very easy to move from action to inaction, right? From waking to sleep. It is very easy, but to remain in the middle is difficult. Like pendulum, from this end to this end, easily we can go, right? But to stay in the middle is the difficult path. So Buddha used the right word, right? So that means don't move to the opposite, just stay in the middle, right? So when you are standing in the middle, you are not gathering any momentum, right? So that is why we have to be in the middle path, right? So when he started practicing this, Buddha is neither a friend to anyone nor an enemy. Right? So we have to practice this noble eightfold path, right? And when I was reading this, I found this acronym or a small formula or to remember this eightfold path. Mute and slam. These are the two words. I got this sudden in my mind. Mute, and the opposite of this is slam, right? So to remember these eightfold path, M-U-T-E, mute, right? Mindfulness, U is understanding, T is thought, E is effort, right effort. Slam, yes is right speech, right livelihood, right action, and right mindfulness. First M is meditation, and the another one M is mindfulness, to just to remember those things, right? So questions to ponder upon. Can you think of a moment or interaction in your own life as a parent that has transformed your perspective or energy, a moment of awakening? Everybody will have, each one of us will have this moment, right? We have so many things to learn from them, right? So some moments will be aha moments. Oh, I got to learn this from my son or daughter. She taught me this. These moments will be there in our life. Just recollect them, right? So let us not forget, we are here to learn from them also, right? And the next question is, who and what are you grateful for in this parenting practice? Write a gratitude list. Many of them will be there, I'm sure, right? Yeah. With this, we'll move on to our next portion of the story. Now, Yashodhara has secretly sent a message to Buddha through Channa, saying, for the sake of your son, you need to come. For the sake of your son. After a month, Channa returned with the news, right? He says, I have seen hesitantly, yes, with my own eyes, I have seen Siddhartha. He wanted to tell Siddhartha, but now that Siddhartha is Buddha, right? So Ananda is his closest spiritual friend, right? I have seen Buddha, he says, right? So next part is, now what Siddhartha is doing, what Buddha is, he is enlightened one, right? So what is he doing? He is teaching Dharma talk, right? That wisdom was so powerful, his words were so powerful that certain monks were assigned to memorize his each talk. Exactly. 3 monks for every talk they were assigning to make sure each word was remembered, right? So they were so powerful. They were remembered and to pass it on to others. So this was happening there in that Sangha, right? And now we all know that he has started teaching to the huge gatherings there, right? So the gatherings were growing enormous size, over 500. Right? He is telling all these things to Yashodhara. Channa was explaining what all he has seen there. Now, her question is, next question is, women too? Any women are there in that Sangha? Right? Then, next, she says, he says only couple of women are there on the outskirt, right? Next, her question is, does he sit on the ground, speaking as one in a circle? She wants to know more about Buddha now. She knew Siddhartha, what Siddhartha was. Now she wants to know the Buddha, right? Channa says, no. He speaks to others from a platform raised up above. They are sitting on the ground in many semicircles, listening deeply. Then he continues, I too felt uplifted when I was listening to him and changed in his presence. It was hard to leave to come home. This is Channa's experience, right? By hearing this, Pajapati was very happy. Yeah. Then she says, Pajapati, he has succeeded in his quest, right? Rejoicing. He has become the enlightened one. And look at her words here. We must now put aside the past and prepare a royal welcome. After all, mother is a mother. That is why her position is high in the society, right? So she says, whatever has happened so far has happened. Leave the past. Now prepare a royal welcome for him, right? Now she says, Rahula, your father is now the Buddha. He'll be coming to home to us, right? She's very happy. Pajapati is very happy to receive him. Now Rahula, he was in confusion. What to do? Yashodhara observed this and she says, we all have to think about Rahula now, right? So she's worried about her son's future only here, right? Again, she sits with Channa in that circle. Now she has got a few more questions. She's not satisfied with that. How does he look? How he is now? She has got so many emotions, questions in her mind. Channa says, beautiful, so beautiful and glowing. Next, her question is, does he eat and drink only what he is offered, begging as other monks do? Yes, he carried a simple wooden begging bowl, the same as all of them. Who are they? Who is with him? A smaller inner circle of 4 monks who have been there from the first talk at Saranath. That circle was there with him. Along with that circle, several hundreds who have come to learn and take their oaths, many of them. The first inner circle is these 4 of them. Ananda was one among them. And then he continues, I was tempted to stay. Channa, he is saying, to join in fully. Even I wanted to join. Then she asks, why didn't you? Then Channa replies beautifully, my oath now is to you. And I believe in our wisdom teachings, our circle. She smiled and touched his hand in gratitude. Then next question is there anything left of our Siddhartha? Channa says, for me, the echoes in his voice, yes. Perhaps in his passion and heart, in his confidence, in what he is saying, yes. Right? He has been transformed. I'm not sure how much or what of Siddhartha is truly left. Right? So she will now, what she is doing, she is imagining, she is recollecting all her memories, how Siddhartha was before Buddha, right? And during her marriage, and when he became father, right? And now he has become Buddha, right? So she was recollecting all these things from childhood. They were relatives, right? She has seen that childhood also, they have grown together, right? So she just recollects all these things, all these stages of her life. Now he is Buddha. She has not seen him, this Buddha, right? So next question is, will he be on this path now for his whole life? She's asking. She's worried about Rahula. Never mind me, but Rahula, his son. She's asking this question to Channa, but Channa had no answer to this. Right? So after this, he knew that her emotions, she was worried about her son's future there, right? He wanted to divert her mind from that. Now he's asking, you have not asked me about his teachings. You are asking about how he looks, what he does, all those things. But what about his teachings? Then she says, yes, I'm ready to listen. Then Channa explains about Anapanasati meditation, what it is, right? Then she says, let us try this together. She wants to practice. She wants to know each and everything, right? Then they'll practice this Anapana meditation for a while. Then she observed that Channa had changed too, right? He was no longer the humble servant of Prince. He seemed earnest, ardent about what he had experienced. Now he had an aura of new learning, purpose, even touch of wisdom. He was not anymore a servant now, right? But he seemed suddenly an equal partner with her in Channa, right? She saw that this was the culmination of what they had endured together all these years. This was the culmination of what they had endured together all these years. She's feeling happy for Channa too. Now, she says, you have become a Kalyana Mitra, a spiritual friend to me. Right? Channa says this to Yashodhara. Then he has heard this saying, there's no greater thing than a spiritual friend. This is the whole of the holy life. Buddha had used this sentence many times when Channa was there, right? Suddenly, tears came to her eyes. This part of what he had said, there's no greater thing than spiritual friend, right? Because always they used to say this words to each other as a lovers and as husband and wife, right? Earlier also he had said this thing to her, but now her question again, there is a question. He used these words, right? What did this mean? The holy life. Holy life means, was he returning or never returning? Was the marriage over? Fatherhood erased? She's still in that hope, right? But again, that confusion is there in her mind. Though she's practicing all these things, stability is not there, right? So then what she did, she closed her eyes, she started practicing breathing mindfully, Anapanasati, and a few times she did that, and the confusion and the sadness eases a bit, right? She's given the solution also. Whenever you are in that tension or stressed feeling, just do this, practice this deep breathing. Afterwards, she is telling, explaining about her circle to Chenna, right? What all they did, right? So here, the main important point is connecting and honoring the circle had become the central practice of their daily life, right? So with this, what she did is she invited him to join that circle. Now he has become spiritual friend, right? She asked him to join her circle. Channa says, even I want to, but the fear of king's displeasure. King Shuddhodana doesn't know that this Channa secretly going to Buddha and his learning all those things there, and his whatever teaching he is getting from Buddha, he's telling all those things to Yashodhara. King Shuddhodana didn't know about this, right? So even I want to join, but Siddhartha will be, Shuddhodana will be upset, right? So he says, if I do this, even I and my family would be thrown out of the palace, he says. And even this Shuddhodana will not agree to this, right? Men and women sitting in the circle together, right? He uses this one sentence, even the Buddha forbids this. Not only Shuddhodana, even the Buddha forbids this, right? So here, again, her look at her maturity level here. There's a small group, he says, there's a small group of women on the outskirts, but they are not allowed at the talks or included in the Sangha, right? Her question is, yes to untouchables. Untouchables were there in that Sangha, right? Not to women. Then how can he claim to be fully enlightened? The enlightened one, how can he claim? Right? Why this difference here? Yes to untouchable. Why not women? Right? Right now, what is going in her mind? Even we don't know. Whether she wants to join him or she is fighting for the equality. We don't know yet. Right? So here, even Chenna sensed this. Right? A fear of what this would pretend for the future of her relationship with Siddhartha. Right? He just nodded and shook his head to his agreement. Right? Next, the most important, interesting part is here. We all know that Siddhartha has become Buddha now, right? So this news, they wanted to take it to Shuddhodana, these women, right? What they did, they hoped for his return in a few months, right? And she was ready to give him a royal welcome, mother, right? And they'll go and tell him that now Siddhartha had become the Buddha, the jewel, the awakened one, perhaps the most honored holy man in the world. This Shuddhodana replies, Siddhartha, the Buddha? The king erupted in rage, angry and scornful. Yeah, even I have read this news, heard this news, but it does not touch me because he has got his own emotions there inside. Still, he has not come out of those emotions. He has not accepted it, right? The damage Siddhartha has done, the renunciation of his birthright, his name is unforgivable. I'm not convinced of the truth or the depth of what he has discovered and teaching. Right? This is the frustration he's showing. And he says, to me, my son is dead. He has nothing to do with this real world. This bitterness filled the air, and he says he has no right to come back here uninvited. I'm not going to invite him. Right? In our day-to-day life, many of us will face this challenge, especially in love marriage cases. Many parents will react like this, right? So here, even Shuddhodana is showing his frustration there. Now, they are, that Prajapati is trying to convince him, but that Shuddhodana is not ready. What he says, he tore us all apart when he left, and now he's tearing us apart by coming back. Right? The fight between king and queen is on, continued, right? But the beautiful part is, Yashodhara says Rahul needs him. Rahula needs his father, right? So she says, we need to get Shuddhodana to allow Siddhartha to come. We have to convince him, right? And if he travels back, I'm ready to talk to him. Yashodhara says, if he travels back, I'm ready to talk to him. But I will not initiate the talk. She's requesting Prajapati to help her in this. Right? But Prajapati grew angry with Yashodhara and walked away from her. Right? Prajapati didn't agree to this. Yashodhara understood that Prajapati was unprepared for the reality of Siddhartha's return or non-return. She's not prepared. Huh? She knew that as the Buddha, he had no particular home. Right? Here, not only the king and queen are fighting, right? She's trying to convince him, right? But even the small Cold War kind of began in between this mother-in-law and daughter-in-law, right? So the harmony within the palace community was gone, right? And from the royal chambers, angry voices were heard between the king and the queen, and they lasted for a longer time. The conflict continued between king and the queen, right? Here, Yashodhara could not help Prajapati in this. She did not enter between this husband, queen and king here, right? She did not interfere there. But though she wants to convince him, but she's not going directly, right? It is Prajapati's work to convince her husband, right? She's, look at this, she's staying away from that whatever fight is going on in between king and queen. How many of us are doing this? Straight away, we will enter into others' this thing. Though this is Yashodhara's matter only, she's staying away from that this thing, a fight, right? So palace was in turmoil, silence, and sometimes in anger. The wall growing between them. Look at this sentence. The wall growing between them forced both of them to speak unskillfully, creating a great suffering. Right? The king issued an edict that he would send Rahula away to become warrior before Siddhartha arrived. He is worried about that also. Right? Before Siddhartha arrives, I will have to send Rahula to the Gurukula. Right? Now he says, I won't allow him to be influenced by his miserable father. I will send him away as soon as I can arrange it. Right? Yashodhara was not ready for this. here, even in the palace, the women especially split into two different groups. One is on Yashodhara's side, the other one is on the Prajapati's side. That internal war began there, right? Finally, Yashodhara went to the king and said she wanted to listen to his grief, right? Then Shuddhodana replies, grief? I told you, my son is dead to me, right? That means I don't have any grief. I'm not grieving. And this Yashodhara says beautifully, and yet you have never wept over him. Yes, he's dead to you, but you have never wept over him, right? You have not yet went out all those emotions, right? See, Shuddhodana becomes very angry and he says, leave now. And I say, and say goodbye to your son. He will be gone tomorrow, right? So what happens? She says, Yashodhara says, from tomorrow onwards, I'll stop speaking and eating and drinking, and you will have my death on your hands, right? So next morning, Shuddhodana will receive a message. Even the other women in the circle also started following Yashodhara's fast, withdrawal, and silence, right? Even you will have their deaths on your hand. This message he will receive. Shuddhodana will be very worried by hearing this. Even Yashodhara is not having anything, along with Prajapati, right? He was very worried. And he will say, he'll ask Yashodhara, what should I do now? What you want me to do now? She says, come and sit with us in our circle. A king joining the women, sitting with servants? This is king's question to her. I'm king, right? Joining this circle of women? That too, servants. She says beautifully, women who care for you and respect you and will listen deeply to anything you say for as long as you want. That is the listening circle, right? And she says, I cannot talk to you about this again unless it is in the circle. You have to come there and you have to talk to me in the circle, right? And we won't eat or drink from this moment forth. If you are not coming, we will continue, right? And he asks, what happens there in the circle? She answers him beautifully. Suffering alone in isolation spreads more suffering around. Suffering with others, with caring others who have been through their own suffering and will listen, offers peace. Being with suffering brings peace to all. This is what me and Prajapati have learned from that circle. That is why I'm telling you to join our circle. Please, I beg you, join us. At least respect the suffering. At least respect the suffering spreading like ripples around you. Right? So beautifully, she's trying to convince Shuddhodana here. She wants to help her, right? Now he's not her father-in-law. Like a father, she's treating him, right? How all of us we do to our father. with conditions, right? If in some addictions or whatever, right? We have seen many daughters will do that thing. The same way, she has become from daughter-in-law to daughter. She wants to help him here, right? So let me summarize what all we have covered today. This noble eightfold path, what he was teaching there in the Sangha, she is literally practicing each and everything, right? So here, this right thought and right understanding will come under moral conduct, right? So right thought, right idea, right thinking, she did here in this when the child was playing, right? Right understanding about the impermanence of life, right? She's practicing literally. And this right speech, she's trying to convince her father-in-law here, right? And she did that practice of bringing him internally to the internal circle there, visualization technique, right livelihood with the entire community, right? All these three things, right speech, right action, right livelihood, are for the purification of mind, right? And the next thing is for control of mind, right effort, right meditation, and right mindfulness, right? Right effort. She started practicing this devotional practice, mindfulness, right? And she was there with her entire community. Right effort she has put there as a counselor, right? And right meditation, mindfulness, right? All these things, control of mind, moral conduct, and purification of the mind. We need to follow this eightfold path, right? He is theoretically teaching everything without experiencing any of these things. She is practically experiencing all these things. Both are on the same path, but it is parallel, right? What he did and what she is practicing now. She stayed back. She did being with practice, relational practice. She was there with her community, her family members, her son especially, right? She was helping all these people. She was holding the hands of all these people, right? So the reflection is she has learned the art of parenting here. How beautifully she has brought out she has introduced that character of his father in that play, right? Indirect way of teaching, right? And the importance of self-talk in that visualization technique. She did the rehearsal before she meets him. Everything that self-talk has done, that has given her the strength to face him now. She is ready to talk to him, right? And she learned the art of meditation, right? So with this, I'll conclude my today's session. And next Saturday and Sunday, next Saturday, again, we'll discuss on this parenting, spiritual parenting. This author has given some points beautifully. We are going to I'm going to talk about those things, spiritual parenting, what it is, and why we have to follow that. Right? What challenges we are facing in our day-to-day life. And on Sunday, the most important, interesting topic. On Sunday, Buddha is coming to palace. He's going to meet his family members, and the beautiful, beautiful conversation between Yashodhara and Buddha. I'll request you all, please don't miss those next Saturday, Sunday's important topics. One is for our personal gain, that is spiritual parenting, what we have to do, what we are doing right now. And on Sunday, on Sunday for you guys, the conversation, beautiful part. Authors have woven this story beautifully. I've retained all those lines as it is. You will love that thing, that part. Yeah, with this, I'll conclude my session. Thank you for joining. Thank you all.
Namaste, Masters. Anybody has anything to share? The platform is open for you all now. Any questions? No questions? Okay. Okay, Deepa ma'am, then we're good to
Thank
go.
you. Thank you, Deepa ma'am. This is Swarna.
Yeah, yes.
Beautiful slides and beautiful explanation and wonderful concepts. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, looking forward to the next sessions. Those are going to be like a little bit excited. More tips and more practical.
Yes.
Practical, yeah. So thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deepa ma'am. Thank you very much for all the for the beautiful session. Anything for tonight, or we are done with the class?
Thank you, Ashok sir.
No,